Hey guys, what's up? It's Eidolon here, and today we're going to be taking a look at my Umbral Chroma Prime or regular Chroma build. This is made specifically for Eidolon hunting, so it focuses on getting the buff for your Vex armor up as high as possible, and then just making it so that you can one-shot pretty much any limb on the Eidolon while using like a little bit of a different Lanka build, because what happens is your Vex armor kind of works like a Suration in the sense that the percentage bonus that you get from the damage boost whenever you take health damage for Vex armor, that works like Suration, right? So with this build, I'm pretty sure, let me just go ahead and double check, but the number of my Vex armor buff, the damage buff, goes up to 957. So how that practically works is that works like a 957% Suration, which effectively makes it so you can drop Suration from your sniper build and then throw on the legs of an element to get even more bonus damage. Now, to kind of put it into context, we are using radiation plus cool damage, and to kind of like visualize that, we're going to be testing against these corrupted bombards right here, because the Eidolons have basically the same weaknesses as the corrupted bombards do, right? The corrupted bombards, their alloy armor is weak to radiation damage and is also weak to cold damage, right? So you get a 100% damage bonus. So you're using that Vex armor buff, 957% Suration, and then you're bringing your elements into the equation, which gives you a 75 plus 25% damage bonus. So you have your base damage off your Lanka increased by Vex armor, and then on top of that you have your bonuses coming from your elemental damage, because that's being applied directly to the armor, so to speak, right? So it's the elemental damage or the armor's weakness, I guess, is a simpler way to put it. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Chroma builds. It's not like your average everyday Chroma build. It's kind of weird. These are the stats. You get an armor increase of 1.2k, and that's by taking shield damage on your Vex armor. And realistically, the only ability that we're focusing on is Vex armor. Now, your elemental ward, it's nice. I'm using the cold element to reflect bullets back at the enemies if I get shot or whatever. But you know, your 1 and your 4 on Chroma, they don't matter at all. So there's no real point modding for them. And this is why people desperately want a Chroma rework, because your 1 and your 4 deal too little damage, and it's just they're meh, right? It's hard to mod for both Vex armor and the other abilities as well, without, like, you know, let's say sacrificing energy per second or something, or, you know, taking a little bit of damage or whatever off your Vex armor, or the armor from your Vex armor, or duration or whatever. Now, you'll notice with this build, I have my Vex armor and my elemental ward sitting around 22-second duration. Now, this is just a little bit lower than base duration, so I have sacrificed duration a tiny little bit. But the thing with Vex armor is you can recast it, and I've made it so that you can recast it with a cost of 71 energy while still getting off like a very damaging Vex armor buff, right? So like I said, this is a weird build. It takes a decent bit of Forma. It took 5 Forma on the Prime variant of Chroma, and at first glance you might be like, what the is this build? You know, you might be like, well, what is this build? What monstrosity have you put together? But it's actually one of the I like to say more balanced builds. Of course, it leans very heavily in the power strength, but it's actually very balanced in the sense that you have a lot of range on there, so you can share the Vex armor buff with your teammates. You also have a lot of efficiency on there. Well, I say a lot, but just higher than base, so then you can actually recast your Vex armor buff without just wasting like 100 energy to recast it. And then you also have a decent duration as well. You have like, what, 20, 21, 22-second duration on there, and you can still recast it at, like, I would say, like a plausible rate. Like maybe 1 or 2 energy orbs would get you enough to recast your Vex armor. And then on top of that, you have things like Xeneric, which is your 5 energy per second regen if you happen to be playing with casuals. Now, it might not be the perfect Chroma build for Eidolons, but this is the one that I use because it's an insane buff and it just works for me. It's got nice duration, so I don't have to pay attention to my duration like all the time and be worrying about it and constantly recasting. So your Chroma build for Eidolon hunts is very specific to your playstyle. It's entirely up to you, and, you know, if you don't agree with this build, that is totally fine. If you want to have more armor on here, go for it. Put on steel fiber. It's really up to you what you want to have on here. You can have more duration, so you can just pop your buff and drop it, or you can go for like a specific number. But I was like, hey, let's make the number as high as possible, so we absolutely 110% of the time one-shot the limb. Doesn't really matter what weapon we're using, or if we have like a Gobroll Riven, even though I do have a pretty good Riven for my Lanka, which I'll demonstrate and show you guys. It doesn't really matter too much, right? So that being said, this is the build. The cost to recast is 71 energy, which isn't too bad. And if we go ahead and we get our energy and we recast it with our maximum energy. So your maximum energy is 3 energy plates, or 3 large energy plates, or just 1 energy plate, and then let it pulse for a little while. So let's see how many casts of Vex Armor we can get out. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and that's it. 4 Vex Armor casts from a completely full energy pool, which in my opinion is a very good deal. Now on top of that, you want to be damaging yourself to get the buff up, right? So we have the Scorn buff and the Fury buff, so that's the armor increase and the damage increase. And if you recast it, so you see right now we're at about 3 seconds. We recast it, we keep the buffs up there, and that lasts for another 22 seconds. Now, that's awesome, killing everything, but what comes next is the build for the sniper rifle, right? The Lanka or the Rubico. I'm going to be showing you guys a Lanka build today because my Lanka does have a good ribbon for it, and it's the one that I have fully formed. Now, this is the build that you would be using if you don't have a ribbon, right? And you're playing Chroma, and this is where you can see the radiation. So we have 3.1k radiation, and then we also have prime cryo rounds for that extra cold, right? So we get a bonus from our radiation damage, and then we also get a bonus from our cold damage. Split chamber on here for more damage, of course, point strike and vital sense for our crit, chance crit damage, vigilante armament for our multi-shot, and then val acceleration on here for higher DPS, so you can get off more shots and it charges faster. It's also a lot better for speed runs. Now I do have a Lanka ribbon on here, which gives me more damage, higher fire rate, and more critical damage, which I would replace val acceleration for, simply because we get that fire rate from that, and the fire rate stat, it's a little bit lower, but because that we have that extra damage, it kind of makes up for it. So you have that 10k rad and 6k cold. So all in all, you're dealing about 16k damage with this build without taking your Vex Armor buff into consideration. If you were going for like a God Roll ribbon on your Chroma or your Chroma Lanka build, you want to be going for like heat or electric or cold multi-shot and crit damage, because it's just kind of like how high your buff is with your Vex Armor. It doesn't really make damage that too worth it on a ribbon, if that makes any sense, because you already have an extremely high damage buff, and it kind of gets to a point where you have diminishing returns. So obviously, like, the more damage the better, don't get me wrong. So damage is still good, it's not by any means bad, but if you want to go like full min max level, having a multi-shot heat, electric or cold ribbon, and then critical damage on top of that is also very, very good. And it also depends like which weapon you're using, right? So like on a Lanka ribbon, you may also want fire rate, because it does have a charge up time. Some people don't like the projectile flight speed, so some people might want projectile flight speed on the ribbon or something like that. So it's really down to the player what their Chroma ribbon is, and so on and so forth. But I'll show you guys the build without using a ribbon, just so you guys can kind of grasp how deadly this is. Now we will be one-shotting pretty much every single bombard here, and we will be using our scope bonus. So you're going to be scoped all the way in, and then that way you're going to get off the highest number possible, because you get a higher critical chance, higher multiplier as well. So that's really cool. So let's just go ahead and get it done. So you cast your Vex Armor, and then you self-damage yourself with Haiku Prime, Talons, whatever, a Glaive. It's really up to you. And then you get out your Lanka, scope in 3 times, charge it, shoot them in the head, and they're dead. Now, your Sniper does have an 8 punch through, so we're going to be killing a lot of those guys. There's recasting our Vex Armor. And that wasn't a very high impressive number, but let's just go ahead and do it again. And let's see, these guys just get melted. It's insane numbers right now. Absolutely insane numbers. And this is without the ribbon on. So, extremely good Chroma build in my opinion. Like, you get off a lot of casts of your Vex Armor, especially there was a red crit that was pretty deadly. You get off a lot of casts of your Vex Armor, and it's easy to keep it up, keep it sustained, in my opinion at least, and you get that insane buff. So I very much like the build. Now, I hate the spawns here. I'd rather they were facing the other way, but we didn't crit there, and there we go, there's a crit. But I think it's easy managed, and I think the buff that you get is quite insane as well. So here's it without the scope bonus, which kind of sucks, because we're not landing that headshot, because for some reason these guys are very, very close to the edge, and I don't like it. So let's just not shoot them in the head, I guess. So there you can see it takes away half his health, not shooting them in the head, which is very, very good versus those bombards who have a lot of effective HP, right? So versus an Eidolon limb, you're going to be one-shotting it with this build, especially if you're scoped in with your Lanka Sniper and doing all that good stuff, and just playing it properly, even shooting through a Volt Shield. Volt Shield will help you out a lot. Using Yunari Wisp, you're going to one-shot the limb, like absolutely no worries there. And then let's go ahead and test it with the ribbon. which is damage, fire rate, and critical damage. So, of course, we're going to be hitting a lot higher numbers with this build because we just have higher base numbers. So let's just go ahead and self-damage like so to get up our Fury buff. Simulate demands. Go ahead, jump over. Go ahead, cast our free again. The refresh duration, not completely zoomed in. Here we go. And as you can see, these guys just die. Like they are gone. And this is without Serration on the build. So, you know, just proving the point that your Fury buff, your Vex armor buff, does actually like work like a Serration is the easiest way that I can kind of explain it there. But you are hitting like insane numbers, and you can, of course, use the Rubico. I might actually go ahead and you know, show you guys a Rubico build as well, just for the sake of showing you guys, because why not? Of course, I don't think we'll one shot with the Rubico, but we will get some pretty high numbers as well, simply because you know, it's the Rubico. It's got some pretty high base stats. The reason that you're dealing so much damage with the Lenka is because you have that scope bonus, you have the Vex armor bonus, you have the Riven, and it's also pure radiation and pure cold. So there's nothing there negating any of your damage by any means. There's no impact, there's no puncture, there's no slash or anything like that. So let's just go ahead and take a look at the Rubico and do our thing. So let's see, we currently have corrosive on and we're looking to make radiation. So what we're looking for is Hellfire, and then we replace Infected Clip for that. And then ideally what I'd be doing is I'd be replacing the Serration for Prime Cryo rounds, and then the Rubico Riven that I have is damage plus multi-shot, which isn't perfect, could definitely get better, but it's still pretty good. So let's just go ahead and do the same thing. We spawn in the guys, get our energy, Vex armor, self-damage yourself like that until we get the 957. There we go, there's the 957. Get out our Rubico, go ahead, zoom into their heads, like so, and then we still do one shot. So, of course, the numbers aren't as high, but we're still one-shotting them and dealing some pretty solid damage to the guys. And then let's just go ahead and recast, and you can see that they die very, very fast. Of course, you have that built-in punch free as well. So that's awesome, you know, super cool. You know, Chroma's great. Again, like I said, this is a build which is made specifically for how I play Chroma in Eidolon hunts. I'm kind of like being ready, being prepared for whenever my team has you know, the Eidolon shield down. So as soon as that shield goes down, my Vex armor buff is already up, and I'm already scoped in, aiming at the limb that I want to destroy. I've got my my finger in the trigger. You know, I'm either, you know, ready to shoot with a Rubico, or I've got a fully charged shot in my Lenka. And as soon as that shield goes down, that limb is gone, and then I can, you know, go out, make some more, you know, RE Wisps or whatever to get that that 100% bonus from that, and then obviously share that with my teammates as well, and then just, you know, make sure that I'm ready for the next stage of the fight, destroying that next limb, and just constantly keeping that up in rotation. Also ensuring that I have energy pads, and if I'm playing in a random group, I'll have Xeneric. So completely neglecting the Yunari Wisp step, I would have you know, Xeneric to regen my energy and make it a little bit easier on myself if I don't have like a coordinated group that can help me out with restoring energy if I need it. So other than that, that's realistically Chroma. I'll be making an Eidolon guide with this guy pretty soon. Whenever I get a chance to record a video, whenever it's nighttime in the plains, that'll be happening. And also a Trinity one as well. A Trinity one, you can solo all of them, so looking to get that into a video. But other than that, guys, that's gonna be it for this Chroma Prime Umbral build. If you guys enjoyed it, go ahead, hit that like button below. If you want to see more Warframe content from me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.